What you're consuming is so important, and what you're consuming matters, and it impacts what you think about, it impacts what you do and your actions. You can't just be nonchalant about it with your kids because they take everything in like a sponge.
Welcome to Cultivating Truth, a podcast for creative disciples. My name is Aaron Davis, and today we have a very special guest with us today, and that is Raising Rogers' own Miss Kara Rogers.
Hey.
Kara, how are you doing today?
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We are filming today in Louisville, Kentucky, but tell us a little bit about where you're from and what brings you here.
Well, Louisville feels like my second home, being as I went to college here, but I'm from Mayfield, Kentucky, born and raised there. If you don't know where that is, it's very far west Kentucky, past Bowling Green, past Paducah. You just keep going basically to the very end of the state. And grew up there, just a Southern girl. And then I know Louisville because we went to college here at Boyce. And so, yeah.
All right, so Mayfield, Kentucky, that's where the family's at. Tell me a little bit about the family.
I've been married to my husband, Adam, for 11 years, and we have 3 kiddos together. We have a son, Haddon, who is 7, Eleanor, my little girl stuck in the middle, she's 4, and then we have another little boy, Carver, and he is 2.
Awesome. What are they like?
Haddon is my little book nerd. He loves to read. He is inquisitive. He wants to know what, like, all the birds are in National Geographic. Like, he wants to know all the facts about everything, so... he's my little intellectual. Eleanor is my little thinker. She's very much a girl. Of course, she holds her own between 2 boys, but she is all things girl, pink, ruffles, ballerinas, all the things. But she's also my little thinker. She has a big brain, and she asks her daddy, because she knows her daddy's smarter than me, she asks her daddy all of the big theological questions, and they have really amazing conversations that I get to listen to on the baby monitor as he's tucking her in. So that's Eleanor. And then Carver, of course, he's 2. We're still figuring him out a little bit, but right now he is my little mischievous one, my little mischievous one. He's a goofball. But he also follows his little sister around like he's the shadow. So we're still trying to see what he's going to be like, but I think he's going to be very intuitive, and I think he is very caring. Anytime anybody in the house needs love or a little snuggle, he's all about it. And my husband, Adam, is the associate pastor at Bethlehem Baptist Church in Cunningham, Kentucky. So that's where we have been for the last 5 years or so.
So you guys have been doing ministry for quite some time, right?
Yeah, even before we came to Bethlehem to serve, Adam and I, we would be serving in children's ministry or youth camp, always serving in the church that we were at. Absolutely.
Now, I think we can't go throughout this whole interview without talking about how you are now a published author. So tell us a little bit about Susie.
Okay, so I wrote a book called Susie, Seizure Guide, and the way that book came about is my oldest son, Haddon, who is 7, he has epilepsy, and he has had epilepsy since... his first seizure was at 4 months old. I think he was diagnosed officially a few months later, but we've been dealing with that basically his whole life. And so the way that Susie, that's what we nickname it, the Susie book, the way that Susie came about was that Haddon was going to go to school. And we knew that we had to tell his classmates about his seizures. Because, how scary would it be for a group of 4-year-olds to experience a seizure and not have any idea what was going on? So we looked around for some books to explain his condition to his classmates, and they were either just didn't take it seriously enough or way over his head. They're 4. They don't need to know about MRIs and EEGs and all those things. They're not ready to know all that. They just need to understand what's happening to their friend. And so we didn't find what we were looking for, and I literally looked at Adam one day and I said, what if I just write one? What if I just write a book? And he said, well, I guess you can. And so I did. Over the course of the next year or so, I wrote Susie's Seizure Guide. And it's just a very simple book about Haddon, the main character, and Susie, who's telling the story, who's loosely based off of my daughter, Eleanor. And she tells the story of her friend Haddon and what epilepsy is and what all of his seizures look like and how you, as the listener of the story, can be helpful to Haddon in his time of need and how you can help a friend who's having a seizure. Very, very simple terms. It's for ages 3 to 6. Anything beyond that, I think they look at me like, okay, this, it's a little too simple. We need a little more explanation. They're going to start asking questions after that. But It's for those just intro kids going into school that need help understanding, what a seizure is. So.
Yeah, see, I think that that's so cool. And there, once again, you go, instead of just consuming something, if it's not out there, let's create it ourselves.
And this book wouldn't be, obviously it's not scripturally based or anything like that. It was just a need. It was just a need that I saw in the market, and it has helped so many people. Just like Raising Rogers helps moms on their, their kids' spiritual journey. Moms in my situation are looking for tools to help their families. Of kids with epileptics. Like, they're looking for the tools to make life simpler, to make life easier. And I have had so many testimonials of how this book has helped them, and that's been so encouraging. Like, that was the point. I just wanted to serve families, and I think it's served its purpose.
Now, Kara, you're quite the entrepreneur. I don't know if we go into all that into Raising Rogers, but you're always getting your hands into different stuff, different businesses or organizations. Tell us a little bit about the other stuff that we don't really get to go into whenever we film Raising Rogers. What else you got going on?
Are you talking about my bread?
I am talking about the bread. How do you make the bread?
Okay, I also make sourdough bread on the side. During COVID, I started to try sourdough, which is, I'm pretty sure, when every millennial tried to start making sourdough. It was just, okay, we're stuck in our house. What else are we going to do? Let's try to make sourdough bread. And so I did, and I loved it. I loved baking bread. And then I told Adam, I was like, I think I'm going to try to sell it, because there wasn't very many. There was like one other place in our town that sold it. And so I did, and it has taken off. Like, everybody loves my bread. And so it's been really fun to just, it's I don't know, it's therapeutic. Like, I just like working with my hands. And so I make and sell bread in my little hometown in Mayfield, and everybody loves it. So that's going good too.
I'm really excited for you to be here to talk a little bit about Raising Rogers and everything going on in that world. Raising Rogers is a part of our organization, Aletheia Legacy.
Hi, and welcome back to Raising Rogers.
Hi, I'm Kara, and welcome back to Raising Rogers.
Hi, I'm Kara with Raising Rogers. Let's check out our new book.
This week, we're in the dark with the bright light and the super scary darkness.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Esther book.
For those who might have never heard of Raising Rogers, what is it that you're doing over there?
Yeah, so Raising Rogers is a YouTube channel. We also have an Instagram page where I review gospel-centered children's books. I started this several years ago at my dining room table, and it's morphed into working with Aletheia Legacy, which we're so proud to do. And I just review children's books that talk about Christ and Christ's biblically centered things. And I just want to get those books into the hands of moms and dads, and that they have those good books, because I feel like not enough people are talking about those books and getting those books into the hands of families.
Yeah. What would you say ignited that desire?
So, like I said, I'm from a very small rural town in West Kentucky. And in the local area where I'm at, I didn't feel like the books that I happened upon, I actually don't even know how I happened. The first one I knew I got received was this Jesus Storybook Bible. That was like the very first really awesome children's book that I received, and read it to our little boy for the longest time. And then somehow along the way, I happened upon all these really awesome books, and I felt like none of my other mom friends had these books. And I was like, I wonder why they're not, like, they don't know about these. And so I thought, I'm just going to sit down. Like, I don't know that it was any big, like, epiphany or like I want to be famous or anything like that. It was just, I want to tell my mom friends about these books, and Facebook was the easiest way to do that.
Hey friends, so I'm making this video as a request for some moms who are interested in the Christian books that we read to our kids.
So I literally sat down at my table, propped my phone up on some other books, and I held these books, and I was like, this is this book, this is what it's about, this is how much it is, and this is where you can find it. And it was just while my kids were napping or, playing quietly in the corner. Sometimes they weren't. A couple of my kids ended up being in the video because, that's how mom life is. But I just sat at my table and I told people about the books and I posted it. And I don't know that it went viral per se, but I had a lot of people watch them. And so it was very encouraging. And all of a sudden it just achieved its goal. I just wanted moms to know about these books that I thought were really awesome.
Yeah. Do you have any positive feedback or success stories from that? Maybe where someone they didn't know of a certain book?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there was nobody being that go-between. Like, we knew of Lifeway and of all these other companies that make books, but unless somebody leads, it's like leading a horse to water. Unless somebody leads you directly there, it's hard to find those kinds of niche books, because you can find Dr. Seuss books or golden books on the shelf anywhere. But these books were a little more, a little harder to find. And so I just wanted to be that go-between. And I had several moms being like, oh, thank you so much. Like, I didn't know this book existed, or, oh, this is great. I've been trying to talk to my kid about XYZ, and this book is that perfect explanation to them. I've also had several teachers, like there's some Christian schools in our area, and they've been like, oh, we would love to have these in our library. Thank you so much for letting us know about them. So it's been exciting to hear that people they're getting what I wanted them to get. They're seeing these books as wonderful resources.
Absolutely. I was just talking to a musician today, actually. We were talking about just the power of marketing. And it's, he was saying, there's probably more people who would like his music, but unless it's marketed well, unless people, talk about it, they're never going to know. We live in such a world where there's so much noise and a huge cloud. It's crowded. It's crowded of how much music, movies, books that are out there, and to have someone who's trustworthy say, "Hey, you should look at this book." I remember when you first did it, I thought it was a brilliant idea, and I thought you were the perfect person to do that.
Thank you.
I already knew I'm going to be able to trust your judgment, trust your discernment, and although I think that there's a pretty, stark difference from the first video.
How camera shy I was.
Hey guys, welcome back to the videos on books that we recommend for our kids. And I'm not sure which number this is, but we're just going to keep going because I'm not done yet.
You were very camera shy in those early days, but
well, and I think what you just said is key. It's knowing that the person making the video is someone you trust.
Yes.
And like you said, I wasn't at the time like trying to be big on YouTube. Now it's great because I have that platform on YouTube to share with literally everyone. But at the time, it was just West Kentucky, and people trusted me because I was the girl at the pharmacy, I was the girl at church, and I was the girl that has his kids in my class, or something like that. So. I think it's just knowing that it was somebody they could trust, and slowly getting the feel out there that, I'm a mom like you are. Like, I'm not trying to impress anybody, but I do have these resources and I just want you to know about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really key in the Christian walk is, essentially it's like accountability is, for example, myself, if I have a thought, maybe it's something political or something that's going on in the culture, I look it up. I don't just rely on myself and my own thoughts for discerning. Obviously I take it to the Word and I, measure it up against that. But I usually, if something big or there's a hot topic going on, I like to see, a handful of people, what are they saying? Not that I necessarily have to just agree with them, but I know that I can trust them on where their heart's coming from, where they're getting their source of wisdom, and I think it's good. I think it's needed in the church, and you and I both know this is we live in a world where truth is very subjected, and people are being fed and indoctrinated even at a very, very early age.
Gosh, yes, absolutely.
And so when you started this, I thought this was absolutely perfect. And when we had the thought of Aletheia around the same time, just a little bit before I think you launched your first video. And it was around then, it was on how can we grow disciples, specifically creative disciples was always my thinking. But I'm thinking, how long ago was this? 3-4 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is the rise of the influencer age. Is, it's no longer about just the movie actors and actresses or the musicians, but people are just getting on YouTube and they're just creating. They're just, as you said, putting their phone out there and they can get millions of views and they're impacting society. And so I think I've always thought once you started doing this, I was like, this is something that I would be very much interested in partnering with, because I think that what you're doing is fantastic and phenomenal. And I want to continue to see it grow. So with that being said, what do you usually look for in your book reviews?
First and foremost, I want it to be biblically sound. And so I'm a Christian, and so if I read a book, I want to make sure that everything that it says aligns with Scripture. And if it does, and then I look for age appropriateness. So everybody that's small in my house is 7 and under. So I look for things that fit that bill, or maybe just above, getting ready for the next age that's going to pop up in my house. So age appropriateness. And by that, I mean, like, if it's a big, thick devotional book, might save that on the shelf for later. My 7-year-old's not quite ready for all that just yet. Or if it's a picture book, then like my 2 and 4-year-old are going to love that. And then other criteria would just be, is it visually beautiful? Kids love animals and kids love illustrations, and making sure that it's something that's going to capture their attention, because obviously they can't read yet. And so I'm reading them the beautiful words, and I want to make sure that matches with the illustrations and that they will enjoy it as much as I am.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love that you just said that making sure that it is also beautiful, or that you can find beauty in the book, which I've talked to people about Raising Rogers. I was like, hey, you should really check this out. And it's been really cool to have random people come up and it's like, oh yeah, Aletheia is somehow tied to Raising Rogers, right? I was like, oh yeah, we produce it, yeah, we're partners in on this. And I've heard a number of moms say, they got into it originally just for themselves to research, learn a little bit more. But I've heard a number of moms say that their kids actually like to listen, and I can even be a testimony to that. Is my two little ones especially, they like to watch the latest episode of Raising Rogers, and it's just they want to learn about the books. Some of the books we're also victims, I guess, of Raising Rogers, and we've bought our own sets that you've inspired us to pick up, but also just going through it, sitting down, and we fight this, right? Like giving the kids a cell phone or just put on YouTube or something. And so we try to be very intentional about not doing that. But at the same time, they do live in this world. And so it's like, okay, if I know that they can watch something that I can put on and it's going to be something that they're going to enjoy, it's going to be beneficial for their soul. And at the end of the day, there might be a little bit of price because we might have to get a book, or so. But even if not, I think that the cool thing about the books is that you don't just say what is that you like the book, but I think that you also pull out the spiritual truths so that anyone watching can benefit and pull from.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because I intended it for parents, right? Like I wanted moms and dads and caregivers to know about these books, but it did end up being a little bit of almost like a story time. I do go through quite a bit of the story itself and read the book. So I think it's really neat that kids like to sit down and watch me. And at the end I do, and then throughout the video, obviously too, I do try to make sure that parents know this is why this book is so important. The spiritual topic that it discusses, or, what, fruit of the Spirit it might discuss, or something like that. Yeah. I want to make sure that parents know why we love the book so much. Yeah. But it's so cool that it also hit that aspect. The kids enjoy it just as much as the parents do. I love that.
A double whammy there. So I'm curious, why do you think, I'm curious for your response. I think we're going to agree on this, but I would like, as one, a mom, I can testify as a dad, but I think we'll have different approaches on it. Why do you think that parents need to know these faith-based books that are out there?
Oh gosh, well, I mean, like every individual, this doesn't just apply to kids, but like everybody has different likes, enjoyments. So I have one in my house who wants to run and dance and sing, and then I have one who wants to read all day long. And so I think that if you have a reader, if they're going to be reading, why not make them read things that are beneficial and things that are beautiful and things that are going to benefit them spiritually? And then two, I mean, we're all going to read a bedtime story to our kids. And so don't get me wrong, I am not anti, Dr. Seuss or anything like that. Like we have so many books. I have a whole bookshelf that's just dedicated to my son's books. And so we have so many books in our house that are not biblically based. But I know that also if he's going to sit there and read, then why not read something that's going to benefit his soul? And so I just think if they're going to be reading, then why not read them things that are going to help them spiritually, And then it's also like, it's such great discussion starters. Like we will have read a book on Monday, and then on Wednesday, my son will come up and ask me a question about that book, or, hey, what does this word mean? And I'm like, I'm so glad you asked. Like, and all of a sudden a wonderful conversation has been sparked that I can help him understand, what humility is or something like that.
Yeah. What would you say to a parent who might say, they're just kids. They don't really need to go into, that deep right now. Just reading's meant to just be fun. And, why are we so concerned about that? What would you respond?
I don't know that I would agree with that. I mean, like I have a 4-year-old who every night when her dad tucks her in, they go in there and like, that is the time for some reason that she asks the most probing, deep theological questions, and she's 4. And so, I mean, I don't know how many books I've read to her in her 4 years of life, but she is already thinking about these huge, topics and huge, heavy things. And if that's starting at 4, then like, I don't want to wait until she's 12 to be discussing these things or whatever age in between. I want to be able to instill those things in her now that are important so that as she grows, and like you said earlier, like these kids are experiencing things that we didn't when we were children, like so much earlier in their life. And if I can solidify her belief in the Bible through these books as an avenue when she's little, then why not do that earlier so that it doesn't seem so hard for them when they're 10 and 12?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important, and I think that's why we were so eager to partner with you guys, is because I think that the process of discipleship can look differently. The church is known typically for having small groups or Sunday school classes and whatnot, but in today's time, stuff on YouTube, putting content material out there for YouTube to help a mom or help a child. Why not put content that's out there? They're going to be consuming. We have a whole thought process on the whole, consuming and versus creating, or creating over consuming, I guess I should say. And but we're never going to fix that, or we're not going to fix that. People will still be consuming. And even people in the church are still going to be consuming. And the problem is what are they going to consume? So, we could just say, hey, get off your phones, quit, pick up a book, pick up the Bible. We could say that until our faces are blue. But at the end of the day, people are still going to be digesting it. And so we should be putting stuff that's out there, that we should be creating beauty. And that's what we say, creating beauty, engaging the culture, and inspiring the world. And I think you guys do that with every episode. And, some episodes connect on an obvious level, like, you're talking about maybe the gospel story. But some of the ones that I think that I've seen that have been so successful are even about just like biblically based, but like practical problems that kids have, such as Arlo, which I don't know the number. It's been a while, but I know the last time I looked, it was definitely over 30,000 views, and somehow it got onto some type of playlist. We looked at the stats, and it's in Cocomelon. Yeah. So there are all these Cocomelon videos, and I think Baba Black Sheep is the video, and then like right after that, it will play Arlo. And so you got these kids, which, Cocomelon's known and critiqued for, maybe being too much of a, stimulant and, almost like overbearing to the kids with the colors and the movement. And so you got these kids that are, toddler age who are watching this. And then all of a sudden they're hearing about Arlo. Yeah, the great big cover up. And I'm thinking, how stinking cool is that, that these kids are just sitting there mindlessly watching. We can't fix that. We can't fix that problem. But as they are there, all of a sudden, hey, I shouldn't be hiding my sins.
Yeah, I think the Lord providentially snuck that in there, and maybe it reached. And that's the thing, like, we're not just stepping back and letting the world take over. Like, we're putting it out there. We might not, be as big as Cocomelon. We probably never will be. I don't expect that. But the fact that that video made it out there, and it's talking about lying and being convicted of your sin, and that made it into the hands of 30,000 people, and like all of a sudden it's just there. And I think the Lord orchestrated that so amazingly that our video gets put into those people's hands, and now and not even the same vein, so as Cocomelon at all.
Absolutely. You would have thought that it would find itself on like the Gospel Coalition or something, but instead, it's on the Cocomelon channel. And so I think that that's very cool. And I think that that's why it's so important for fellow believers to share beautiful, creative works.
Yeah, if you're not a creative yourself, or you don't think of yourself as a creative, actually putting content out, you can absolutely share it. I mean, like, the whole idea for me was to make sure moms knew. So if you're a mom, make sure other moms know about what we do, because we want to get that content to you, gospel-based content. So yeah, absolutely. If you can't do it yourself, then just share it. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'm assuming you have more books lined up that you would like to review.
Of course. And I think I've made a little bit of a name for myself now because I have friends will say, have you heard of this book? Have you seen this book before? And if I haven't, I'm like, add to cart, or, I'll write it down and make a list of what I want to purchase next. So yeah, we've been compiling a new list of books, a new pile at the house. So I'm always looking for new ones, and I got a little stack going. So I'm definitely excited about the next season.
Yeah.
Something else we're thinking about doing along with the YouTube reviews. I know that not everybody is a video watcher, obviously. You might be a podcast or a reader instead. And if that's the case, we're working on becoming all things to all people as best we can. And so working on compiling a little more of some written things that you can read on your own time about what we approve in this book, what we don't, maybe hitting the highlights of why we love this book and where you can find it, et cetera, things like that. So.
That's really cool. I think that would be extremely helpful just to have that resource.
And also, I didn't mention this too, maybe making some lists, age-appropriate lists. I know that, everybody has different littles at their house, and so trying to get some lists where it's just quick search, this is 0 to 3 or, 5 to 7, something like that. We're working on getting some quick lists or maybe even topic-based so that if you're, like currently I'm looking on a book for humility, just vulnerability. My littles need some humbleness. And so I'm looking for a book on that. And I think having a list out there of those books, something on those topics would be really helpful. So we're working on that vein, trying to get some written things out there for Raising Rogers.
I think that's so good that you're helping us with that. And how you speak about your books, it sounds very much like a diet. Which I think is cool, is because I think many people, they look at their books like just like junk food, or if we're not being mindful of what we're eating, it's like, oh, well, I just need to eat this day, so let me go pick something up and whatever it is, and I'm not really being thoughtful about my health or my future or tomorrow or whatever it is that I'm doing actively in that moment. And different foods will complement depending on what you're doing. But hearing you say this, like, I need a book on humility, I think it's very much that dieting of understanding, because people do that. They'll just throw a book into a kid's hands like, oh, that's a fun book. Pick that up. Not that there's anything wrong with those books. We were going through the other day a Pooh book, Clifford, and Corduroy, if you remember.
Oh, we love Corduroy in our house. Absolutely.
But I love how you're speaking on, we need a little bit more humility in our house. And so maybe finding a book about that would be helpful to have as an illustration to be able to point to.
Yeah, I just don't think, and this applies to, we've talked about screen time, and that's such a hot topic in everybody's house that has somebody under the age of, well, probably it doesn't matter. I think it goes from 0 to 16. But I think that we can't just throw entertainment in our kids' faces and be like, look, be entertained. I'm busy. I have stuff to do. Like, what you're consuming is so important, and what you're consuming matters, and it impacts what you think about, and impacts what you do and your actions. And when my kids aren't reading books, the movies they watch, I'm mindful of those too. Like, it just matters what you're consuming. You can't just be nonchalant about it with your kids, because they take everything in like a sponge. And so I just think it's so important to make sure that what they're reading and what they're watching is beneficial, or at least not harmful. I don't want the things they're reading about or watching to be, things that they're going to mimic in my house that I don't approve of. And so I try to be very careful of those things. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. To put you on the spot, you talked about list. You don't have to necessarily have your order. I didn't give you this beforehand, but maybe a top 5. If someone's watching this for the very first time and they're like, I need to know 5 must reads, especially with a biblical worldview, what would you give me?
Okay. So we love the Jesus Storybook Bible. It's an all-encompassing, tells tons of Bible stories, very biblically based, beautifully illustrated. Love that book. And then after that, I love The Garden, the Curtain, and the Cross by Carl Lafferton. It is one of the Tales That Tell the Truth books. It is the gospel in a nutshell. And it's so beautiful. I love the illustrations in that book too, but it's so simply written to children that they can understand and grasp the concept of salvation. It's beautiful. I love that one. I do love Arlo. We talked about Arlo. I love it so much because it's every kid's going to lie. No matter if it's a big lie, little lie, it's every kid's going to lie. And so it's just a story about a little boy who lies, and the kids can relate with it so easily, and it's very practical. I love Arlo and the Great Big Cover Up. Let's see. I also love Jesus and the Lion's Den, also another Tales That Tell the Truth book. Not Daniel in the Lion's Den. My son always wants to call it Daniel. It's Jesus in the Lion's Den. I love that book because it shows how Daniel and Jesus are kind of a mirror of each other, and I love that it shows the comparison there. And number 5, let's see. I don't know. 4's good. We'll stick with 4.
A Fab 4?
Yeah.
All right.
Fab 4, yeah.
Fab 4. That's fair. That's very much fair. So what are you hoping that the future looks like for Raising Rogers?
I love what we're doing right now. I want to continue doing book reviews because I think families are being benefited from it. Teachers are benefiting from it. Just caregivers in general. They're the initial, simple purpose to get it out there. I think it's getting in the hands of people who need it. And then I would like to expand, like we talked about, into maybe a quick list or a cheat sheet, if you will, of, I can go over here and read, okay, click on this age, this is what I need. Or this is the topic I like, these are some books that could be helpful. I think expanding it that way would be super beneficial to people who just need a quick click, and there's what I need. And then other than that, I don't know. Just see where the Lord takes us and what kind of doors he opens, but I'm ready.
All right, before we fully close out, is there anything that you would like to talk about or anything that you would want the people to know?
I'm just thankful, like this all started with me sitting at my dining table, hoping to reach 25 moms. That's where it started. And I'm just so thankful for all the people that have supported Aletheia and supported Raising Rogers, because this isn't about becoming famous. This isn't me hoping that you see me on the sidewalk and recognize my face. This is about, I want your child to know about heaven. I want your child to know about sanctification and conviction and the Lord. That's the heart behind it. I'm a mom, and at the very core of it all, I'm just a mom like these people who watch me. And so I just want them to continue to support us, because we want to keep sending and sharing good books. And as long as I find more good books, I'm going to keep sharing them. And the way that we let other people know about that is sharing and just creating that content for everybody. So thank you to those who have done that so far, and just continue to do so, because we have more books to share and we have more things to keep them interested in.
As we talked about earlier, I think that every time someone shares a video, it's not necessarily that they're just endorsing the book, but they might be endorsing or sharing the message of that book.
That's maybe a better way of what I'm trying to say. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not us. We don't really, it's not about Aletheia. It's not about Raising Rogers. It's about my heart behind it. And it's that I want them to know about the Lord. And it's the message that's in the video or the podcast.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to make these great resources, because they are hard to find. Not necessarily everyone knows where to go. We live in such a world where it's just all right, we'll pull up Disney Plus, and and that's proven to not, even that cannot be, that's not completely safe anymore. And so having a resource and a tool like Raising Rogers, I think, is super beneficial as a parent to be able to give to their kid, to give to us as as moms and dads, to know, hey, this is something that we should be talking about. Some of even the books that we've covered, I'm thinking, I didn't know we should be talking about that right now, And so I think that you've done a great job walking through those books and working with those publishers to put it out for the common mom and dad. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Well, once again, we are very thankful for Kara Rogers from Raising Rogers Books. Be sure to check them out. You can check it out on the Aletheia Legacy website or YouTube. You can also follow her at Raising Rogers Book on Instagram and Facebook. Give her a like, give her a follow, share, let other people know about what's a good book, especially those clips where we have good messages that are going out there. Let's fill up the social media platforms with great, good, godly content out there instead of the junk that we might be consuming ourselves. Thank you guys, and have a blessed day.